Hello, I'm Caroline Fairchild, and welcome to Working Together Live, a show about equity in the workplace with the leaders changing the face of business. Earlier this week, I was at the Milken Institute Global Conference in Los Angeles, where I sat down with Emmanuel Acho. The former NFL athlete went viral with his series, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. We talked about career pivots, as well as his new book, Illogical, Saying Yes to a Life Without Limits. Let's take a look. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us on Working Together Live here from the Milken Global Institute Conference.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Caroline.
I've been so enjoying your book, and I'm so excited to speak to you about it. We're talking to the members of LinkedIn right now, and in many ways, this book is about a career pivot, a hard career pivot from athletics into media and communications. What spurred that pivot for you? What was that moment when you said, you know what, I'm ready to do something different?
For me, it was failure. Truth be told, I was drafted into the National Football League. But by the age of 25, I had been fired 5 times. In the NFL, the verbiage is I had been cut. I had been fired and re-signed 5 times, Caroline, by the age of 25. And I realized that maybe this wasn't a door. Maybe this was actually a wall, the NFL. And maybe it was time for me to move on. And I wrote this book because I think what so many people can relate to is failure. Having a plan, but having to detour and deviate from that plan. And while I had this great plan of being a Hall of Fame NFL player and playing in the Pro Bowl and all of these things, I realized it's time for me to detour from that plan and go into TV and go into being an author.
Like so many people who I'm sure are joining us right now, your identity was wrapped up in your career at the NFL. So many people's identities are wrapped up in their jobs. How did you go about decoupling that in order to be able to imagine something different?
Man, that's such a good question. I think the problem is, and we saw it really this past summer at the Olympic stage with the likes of Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, is when your identity becomes what you do, then when you no longer do what it is that you do, you'll have no idea who you are. And I just have to realize, like, wait, you're not an athlete. What you are is a creative. And the beauty of being a creative is you can be a creative across multiple different industries. So being a creative on television, I literally just came from the studio, hence the yellow shirt.
It's a good color. It's a good color.
Thank you. You have to say that. But given like being a creative, you can be a creative on TV. You can be a creative as an author. And on the football field, it's truly poetry in motion. You can be a creative in sports. And so really my advice is to be illogical and to be that whatever you are gifted at, figure out how you can use those same gifts across a multitude of industries.
And a lot of the book focuses on conventional wisdom, this idea that you should follow what those have done before you, this idea that you should listen to what others have to say. You bucked that trend. You said, actually, I'm not going to listen to conventional wisdom. What is the problem with conventional wisdom, particularly as you're thinking about your own career?
Yeah, so many ask, like, well, what is being illogical? And being illogical, Caroline, believing it is so, even when it's not so that it can be so. The problem with conventional wisdom is conventional wisdom only believes what has already been. It only believes what's already been. So how can you actually aspire, achieve anything new? Because we so often are scared of other people's fears. I'm reminded of Roger Bannister, and I tell that story. It's my favorite story in really all of the motivational world. Roger Bannister was the first man in 2,000 years who ran a mile in under 4 minutes, May 6, 1952. Now, scientists suggested that it was physically impossible. Some even submitted your heart would explode if you tried to go that fast. They said the human body was not capable. But on May 6, 1952, Roger Bannister did so. The fascinating piece of all of this, within the next 2 years, 10 people ran a mile in under 4 minutes. Now the question is, why, Caroline? And the answer is found in this. We saw somebody do it, so then we realized it was doable. Conventional wisdom tells us what's impossible as opposed to telling us what is possible. So illogical by premise is just, become the best version of yourself. Don't be afraid of other people's fears and believe the impossible until it becomes possible.
One of the versions of you achieving what I would say is the impossible is through your series, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. You got leaders across industries to talk openly about race in ways that I've never seen and the world has never seen. And in that first episode, when it went viral, you wrote in your book, you almost didn't even do a second episode.
even though there was massive success, people were clamming every which way to get a whole piece of you. Why didn't you almost do that second episode, and what pushed you to move forward with the project?
Well, the greatest, I almost didn't do it out of fear. I think the greatest fear is not actually not having, but the greatest fear is having and losing. It goes back to the old colloquials, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Many would argue that, right? I had with Uncomfortable Conversations, episode 1, 25 million views. The likes of Matthew McConaughey, Oprah, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon had all reached out. So now the question is, you can't follow that up. Not with 25 million views, at least I didn't believe so. So because of that self-doubt, I almost chose not to do a second episode. For those, go back and watch, and episode 1 is on my YouTube channel, maybe, I don't know how many million views on YouTube, but Instagram would have like 12 million, etc. I say, welcome to the first of hopefully many episodes of Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man.
So you had that hope.
Yes, but what's interesting is, don't view hope as a positive. The hopefully was not said in a positive manner. The hopefully was said in a, I'm probably not doing no more. So that's why I said, typically I would just say, hey, welcome to the first episode of Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, if I intended completely on doing more. I said hopefully because I was like, I hope I do more, but I don't know.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm sure it's a question that you ask all the time. So I'm going to ask, first I'm going to say, do you want to have an uncomfortable conversation with a white woman? Are we okay doing that? Yeah? Because I'm sure you've been asked this question, and I'm sure you have a boilerplate response. But I want to know the real answer here. Is that good?
Yo, if I got $1,000 for every time I'd be asked that, I'd be on an island somewhere.
All right. Well, my question is, since you started that series and through the work that you've been doing now, how have you seen conversations about race shift in this country? What are the big shifts, and where do they still need to be progress?
Well, I think the shifts are with empathy. I think that there are 4 stages of knowledge that you'll often hear. There is, you know that you don't know that you don't know. You know that you do know, and you know that you don't know. There are the 4 different stages of knowledge. And I think collectively, particularly individuals in the C-suite, they didn't know that they didn't know what the racial disconnects, the racial divide. They were oblivious and ignorant to what the minority groups were going through. But now we've moved from not knowing that we don't know to knowing that we don't know. And that's a huge, huge difference, because at least now I'm cognizant of the fact that I might know what it's like, and I might not know what it's like to be a Black man. I might not know what it's like to be a Black woman. I, as a man, might not know what it's like to be a woman. Moving from that stage of not knowing that you don't know to knowing that you don't know is pivotal, because I always say you can't fix a problem you don't know exists. And until you realize the problem exists, you can't fix it.
When you think about knowing what you don't know, what does that shift look like practically at a large business conference like this, at some of the stages that you find yourself on? How have the conversations truly shifted?
Well, I think they've shifted by people entering with a little more courage and people entering with a little more humility. Now it's a matter of, hey, if I said anything to offend you, hearing questions like that. Hey, how can I best serve you? Hey, where do you think I'm ignorant? People are genuinely asking questions. People are genuinely curious. So I think we've seen the conversation and the dialogue shift in the manner of individuals are actually talking about it. And for so long, there was not any dialogue. At least there was not any positive dialogue.
Well, working together is all about facilitating conversations on equity in the workplace. Some of those conversations happen with colleagues. It can be difficult conversations. For those who are watching right now who might want to speak to a colleague about something that they're dealing with at work, as it deals with race, as it deals with gender, how do you start? Where do you give people tips?
Well, it's twofold. Understand time and place. Not every colleague is ready to receive your words, and make sure you have the words that are properly receivable. I'll give three things. You have to speak with truth, with grace, and with love. If you only speak with truth but no grace, it'll be too harsh. So the individual won't be able to receive it, regardless of how honest it is. If you only speak with grace but no truth, it's like superfluous nothings, Caroline. It's like, hey, thanks for being sweet, but you didn't help at all. But love has to be present, because nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. So don't just go up to the random colleague you ain't talked to all year, whose cubicle you walk by every day. You never offer to get them coffee. You never to see if they want to go out to lunch. You never offer to get them water. But now you want to talk to them about race. Now you want to tell them everything wrong they're doing in life and how they haven't supported you. That's not the right time and space. Truth, grace, and love.
I can't believe that there are still people working in cubicles at this day and age, but you're right that there are. Emmanuel, I know you have a panel to moderate yourself. Before I let you go, you hate goal setting. I need to hear a little bit about why we need to be rethinking goal setting, because it's just all over all the career books, all the business books. What's wrong with goal setting?
The premise of Illogical is that goals are dumb. Chapter 11 in my book. And I think that a goal at best, it limits your achievement. Caroline, if I set a goal and achieve it, well, congratulations. Well, what if I could have done more? But if I set a goal and I don't achieve it, now I've ruined my self-esteem and my self-efficacy. And I think we've all done something along the lines of this. At 26, I want to be married. At 28, I want to have kids. By 30, I'm going to have a house. What happens when you're 31 and single with no kids? Now all of a sudden you're questioning your self-worth. You're questioning your self-esteem. You're questioning your value in society because you tied everything to this goal. So rather than setting goals, I believe in having an objective with no limitations. Small difference, major impact in our lives. A goal, by definition, an end towards which effort is aimed. An objective is just simply energy aimed in a direction. I just want to keep moving forward towards greatness. I don't care about goals. I think goals are dumb. I think goals are stupid. And I think a goal is the quickest way to fail.
Well, Emmanuel, you've exceeded my objective for this interview. Thank you so much for joining us and working together.
Thank you.
That was Emmanuel Acho giving us a whole new outlook on goal setting as well as other aspects of our career. I want to thank him for joining us on the show. Working Together is not just a live show. It's also a newsletter that hits your inbox every Wednesday morning. For more on equity in the workplace and the leaders changing the face of business, be sure to hit subscribe. All right, later today, my colleague Jesse Hempel will be sitting down with Reid Hoffman as well as Ben Casanoka for a conversation about taking risks in transforming your career. That'll be here on the LinkedIn news page at 2:45. You won't want to miss it. I'm Caroline Fairchild. Thank you so much for joining us.